to wear a mask. That is okay. These are the things we know to prevent you from speaking moistly. Speaking moistly. Keep 2 meters apart. Speaking moistly.
Welcome, everybody, to Speaking Moistly. It is myself, Greg Wycliffe, and, of course, the one and only Mark Paralavis. How are you doing today, sir?
I am doing very well, sir. Well, a little disconcerted. I mean, jeepers creepers, watching the news, things are absolutely, completely crazy. People are not... There have been people just being attacked randomly from behind, and that's been kind of normalized. We've seen people attacked on buses, children attacked by older kids, like grade 5s attacking younger kids who are the wrong color or whatever. And that's been encouraged. We've seen the news media and television shows say punch a Nazi, et cetera, et cetera. And now, I mean, it seems like it's amping up to a level that is jaw-dropping, and I can't believe it's happening in Canada personally. Starting to jump right in, but holy smoke, things are crazy.
No, absolutely. It's been a violent Monday. We had a stabbing in broad daylight in Vancouver. Obviously, this video has been making the rounds, and we had this shooting in Nashville.
We're not going to play it, are we? Don't cut to the video.
I mean, I think people have seen it. I've
seen still images, but as soon as I see the TikTok, the walking up thing, I'm like, no, I can't watch it because I'm just.
Yeah, it's pretty queasy. But before we get into the stories, we have to promote Speaking Moistly Live, where we're going to be speaking to a doctor, a nurse, and a paramedic about what's gone on the past 3 years. Dr. Patrick Phillips will be there. Sarah C. from Frontline Nurses, the co-founder of Frontline Nurses, and also the paramedic Scarlett Martin. That's going to be April 15th, Saturday. Tickets are still available. And it's going to be me and Mark hosting. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Check it out. The link is in the description below. I don't want to miss that. There are still some tickets available. But, so let's start with Vancouver. And, I mean, I think that a lot of people were commenting. There is going to be a little bit of gore here. You're going to see a little bit of blood, but it's not too graphic.
Are you going to show a picture?
Yeah, I'm going to show a still. If that's okay. So this is kind of the scene here. This is the person on the ground over here. But it's this guy was just like sitting there watching. And I, because I'm desensitized to this, I made a comment.
Okay, take it off. Oh, okay,
when you're enjoying your Starbucks, listening to a CBC Gem podcast, and a racist conspiracy theory happens right in front of you. I don't know. Like, a lot of people are reacting to this. How could you just be sitting there and all this? But
I think unless you're prepared to engage this person and fight for your life too, you know what I mean? Like, you try and melt into the background, or you say, hey, you stop that right now. And you engage a person who's got a knife and who's clearly willing to use it. And I'm not saying one person is right and one person is wrong necessarily. I'm not advocating you have to be the hero, because there's some the drugs that are around these days. I've seen in YouTube videos mostly, but I've seen some crazy people able to stand up to tasers from multiple police officers. Like, nothing's going to stop them. So if you want to be a hero and get stabbed, it's like, oh shit, that guy just got stabbed.
I think the alarming thing about it, though, is if you watch the clip, it's like, I don't know if this perpetrator is necessarily on drugs or not, because after he does this, he turns around and walks into the Starbucks as if he's about to get his latte. Like, it's really it's really messed up. And I think, when it comes to like shaming this person for sitting there, I think it's like, you don't really make a decision when that happens. Like, you kind of react, and you just kind of find out what type of person you are. I think it's that simple.
But I mean, sometimes you don't even.
You're either going to spring into action and do something, or you're going to freeze and be like, and this guy obviously froze. But I feel like it's something that's almost like predetermined.
You don't know how you're going to respond unless you're in that situation.
Yeah, unless you're in that situation. Like I would like to believe that I would get up and do something. But I'm also like, I don't think I'm going to be that arrogant to be like, yeah, I would definitely do that. It's like, I think I don't know what would happen, how I would react to that, you know?
No, it's very scary. There's another video, and this is going back a little while, but there was a guy in a United States city, and he loaded a gun and he shot a guy in the head, and like this happened on a street corner, and everybody was like, crazy. Gun laws, or that's the reason this is happening. Absolutely not. Like, that's not the reason this is happening. What's happening is people are like taking lots of medications. People are not fulfilling their responsibilities to themselves through like having babies and stuff.
Sorry, having children. I'm laughing because Barrick the Red in chat said everyone is so mad because of the price of milk.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's 100%. Exactly why I am ticked. This happened.
$5.89? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's a great point. That's a great point.
Destabilizing. Listen, if you grow up and you're told if you work hard, you're going to be able to succeed in this country. We have a country, a great country that's so rich. If you work hard, you will be able to afford a place to live. You'll be able to afford a car. You can go on vacation. Right here. Have a nice household and parties and all sorts of stuff. And then you find out that when you actually grow up, there's no houses to buy that are under $1 million. And if you want to rent, that's going to be all of your paycheck. Mm-hmm. So sorry about that. The social contract was absolutely abandoned by this government. And now we're sending all our money to Ukraine. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why anybody's still voting for these people, these creeps who are in our government. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's almost like they're victims to the propaganda or something. I'll try to zoom this in so it's not too gory. But this guy in the red pants is the perpetrator. And like,
okay.
And this is like after he stabbed him. He's just like, oh yeah, anyway, got tech, he's just casual. Watch how he's just casually.
Yeah.
No big deal. No big deal at all. That's pretty messed up. And the thing is like, people don't want to talk about the assimilation, mass migration, sort of like multicultural angle to this. And because why would you? You get called racist. It's uncomfortable. How dare you say something like that? But, when I see something like this, somebody just casually walking away after stabbing somebody to death, who raised this person? Where did they come from? That's what I want to know. I would like to know who raised this person? Where did they come from? And especially if they came from outside of Canada, why the hell weren't they better? Sorry, I know people don't like this word, but why weren't they better assimilated? How do we not, we should be asking these questions because people are getting stabbed needlessly in the street. The reason we know he's,
sorry, am I frozen? Am I slow?
Actually, to be honest, I'm just getting reports now that guy butt him in line. So never mind. It's totally justified. I'm kidding, of course.
Oh yeah. No, am I slow? Can you hear me or no?
I can hear you. Yeah.
You can hear me? Okay. So one of the things that I heard was the reason that he got stabbed is because he asked that guy to stop smoking drugs in front of his daughter. That was the reason for the stabbing. That's what I read in the newspaper. Yeah. So So the drugs are a component of what happened. But
what type of drugs? Because that's important.
Is it? It wasn't marijuana.
Yeah, because if he's smoking PCP, then it's like understandable that this guy is going to do something like that. If he's smoking weed, then that's an issue. Then that's
a bigger issue. Yeah,
I don't know. That's a bigger cultural issue supporting my kind of multicultural immigration argument of how that might be a factor.
Yeah, I think that there's other aspects of this as well. Like in Vancouver, especially, there's the drugs and the drug use and the open, like the safe injection sites and all of that other stuff.
Right.
And so that's going to be impacting things, and that's not good. And I don't know if this played into this specific incident, but it's played into the degradation of that downtown core. And I don't know if we're going to be able to turn the clock back on that. And what about the Toronto stabbing?
Well, someone who might be able to turn the clock back on that is the one and only Chris Skye. I thought we'd jump to this just because it seems like a segue. Chris Skye was charged with 3 counts of uttering death threats, 2 counts of assaulting police officer with a weapon in dangerous operation of a motor vehicle. All of his detractors were calling him a criminal, but he was just found not guilty on all charges, which is amazing. We love Chris Skye, and I honestly believe in this guy to be somebody who could really help turn this country around, not just turn this country around, but help turn Toronto around. Because as we're gonna see in just a second here, they're speaking of stabbings, speaking of violence. This is teenage victim in unprovoked stabbing at Keele Station identified. Man charged with murder.
Yep. Go to the Sun article.
The Sun article.
Yeah. This one's a bit better. Just at the top here, scroll down. It says law enforcement sources say the homeless. Law enforcement sources say the homeless man accused in the random murder of a Toronto teen on the TTC was out on numerous releases. So that's not great, right? Scroll down. I think there's a bit more there. Upward, yeah. This detective close to the investigation told the Sun it was a full-on justice system failure. Yeah. So like this guy who killed the 16-year-old kid on the subway through stabbing was out on multiple releases. And this is the reason is because the justice system failed. This family, this kid, what a nightmare. What a just absolute nightmare.
And it's like, obviously sending people to jail isn't ideal, but it's like we put them in there for a reason, for whatever reason. Maybe they're, they weren't developed properly and they're being violent. They're stabbing people. Okay. It
would be better to have that guy in jail than and have that kid still alive, that 16-year-old kid still alive than,
it's kind of silly that we have to explain this. Let's explain what the jail is for. So the jail is for violent criminals who just stab people when you look at them funny on the subway. So that's what the jail is for.
Yep. And can you imagine being forced, if you were forced into, using transit all the time because you're in a 15-minute city and you have to share it with people who are unstable like that and weapons that are illegal?
And it's like, this has been a trend that people have kind of been making fun of, but it's like they're making fun of it because it's like really fucked up. Like it's really it's very uncomfortable where it's like, haha, just take the TTC. It's only $3.75, could cost you your life though. Right. And I think another crazy thing, shoot, I don't have the link up here, but if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, just tell us the story. It's all right.
They're offering self-defense classes.
Oh, for women. I saw that.
Yeah.
Specifically for women. Well, let's talk about
I think I found it here.
Yeah. Okay.
Toronto Gym introducing self-defense workshop for TTC riders to protect themselves.
There, that's nice.
Isn't that nice? Isn't that great?
Yeah, they're thinking about you.
Yeah.
Because you got to protect yourself from the degenerates the justice system keeps flooding the streets with.
I mean, I guess good on them for offering that, but it's like, maybe the city should take note of this. Hey, instead of I don't know, tackling the root problem, it's like, hey guys, just get your self-defense classes. What are you whining about?
But if you carry something that's illegal, like say you carry a baton or something like that, I think it's illegal to carry a baton, and you protect yourself in a way that is seen as illegal, then you might get charged. There was a criminal who was attacking you, but you beat the snot out of them, and now you are under arrest, madam. Get good at defending yourself, but not that good.
Okay, good.
What about the shooting in Nashville? So we started the show talking about people just being attacked for their skin color, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now there are reports of this Christian targeted hate crime against a Christian academy by a former student and trans person. So they're biologically female, but they were wanting to be seen as male.
This is from Andy No. Breaking. The deceased mass shooter of the Christian school in Nashville has been identified as trans person Audrey E. Hale. 3 children and 3 staff were murdered. The shooting comes amid a surge in far-left death threats in Tennessee over the state banning the medical transitioning of minors. Hale's art page featured LGBTQ+ themed artwork. She's a graphic designer, by the way. Okay. And I mean, I was telling Mark before we started the show that I was talking to a normie friend, and I'm like, did you hear about this? And to me, the notable things are that the shooter is trans and that the victims is a Christian school. Like there's a very kind of clear ideological, element to what's happened here.
If this had happened to a mosque.
Right. And the first thing that my normie friend says is he replies with a CNN headline that says, they acquired the firearms legally. And it's like, okay.
Like the person who committed the shootings did.
Apparently.
They singular.
It's a CNN article, so I didn't fact check.
Yeah, they were trying to.
But
apparently the New York Times apologized for misgendering the person, for not calling them he or him, I guess.
Yeah.
which is ridiculous, like missing the point, everyone. It's a very interesting response from the media, because when who was it? The Christchurch shooting happened. It was ideologically motivated. He had a manifesto. This chick has a manifesto. And if it did, and they use that to justify banning guns across the Western world. Like, oh, you don't want to be seen aligned with the manifesto. So if that's going to, and remember when Cooper read the manifesto, like part of the manifesto into the record to make sure everybody understood what he was talking about for clarity reasons, and then everybody lost their mind and he had to take it back. I think it was Michael Cooper. Yeah.
Was this in regards to Christchurch?
Yeah.
I don't remember this specific moment. No, he read the whole manifesto.
He didn't read the whole manifesto. There was a part that was quoted talking about specifically gun crimes and gun laws, and basically like calling it nonsense. And I think that's the context of it anyway. It's a little muddy in my head right now, but he called it out, and then everybody got mad that he had read, part of the manifesto, even though it made sense because there was something happening specific. And he said, like, here's the relevant part. Understand what we're talking about, basically. But he got in trouble. But we've got a situation that would disrupt the narrative, and so the powers that be are trying to misreport it in a way that is least damaging to the narrative, to the trans narrative, being the victimhood, et cetera, et cetera. They're calling for Trans Day of Vengeance or something like that.
Well, yeah, I don't have that tweet up, but this is sort of in the same vein. This is from Billboard Chris. Trans activists are most violent group in the Western world. I don't really know who this is, but like just the rhetoric is crazy. Kill Christ cucks, behead Christ cucks, roundhouse kick Christ cucks being Christians, I guess. And I think the point is like, I would like to know, did the FBI show up to this person's house? Because like if a right winger did anything even close to this, they'd probably get thrown in jail. You know what I mean? Like, definitely.
And that's a threat, right? Like it's not a
absolutely. And it's like, is the trans card? Can you play the trans card? Is the trans card so powerful that you can like be a militant, like I'm going to kill Christians, and they'll be like, well, they're trans. Yes. It's beautiful. So
as long as you're threatening to kill the appropriate people, then the powers that be will allow you to continue. And that's just incredible too, because like, look at how far this person was allowed to get. They bought guns legally, for crying out loud.
And like, this angle has been talked about when it comes to the trans thing, but we're told that no, this is the thing for love is love and people just want to live their lives. And it's like, well, actually, if you are a psychopath, if you're a sociopath, you will see that you get certain privileges and advantages for identifying as trans. And, male rapists do this to get access to women's jails, for example. So it's like, if you are someone who's mentally ill and wants to potentially do something horrible with a firearm, then it's like, damn, if I identify as trans, I kind of get more leeway. I kind of get more, like, you know what I mean? This, regardless of the whole, regardless of the whole, like, this is my legit identity sort of argument. It's like, well, we're creating this fucked up privilege or sort of, man, it's, there's other examples of do you have the genocide tweet thing in front of you? Someone was tweeting that.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
I will show this. This is kind of humorous to lighten it up a bit. This is the Ferryman's Toll pointed this out. The satire of a few years ago is the reality of today. This is a tweet from Norm Macdonald from 2016. What terrifies me is if a tranny were to shoot up a school full of children and kill a bunch of innocent kids. Imagine the pain when they're misgendered by the media. And then sure enough, this is like yesterday. Another day, another mass shooting. The shooter has been identified by his dead name. It appears he used he, him pronouns and was a former student of the school. Of course, the mainstream media and the LEOs discussing the issue are misgendering the murderer. I'm sad and angry on so many levels. Really, dude?
I mean, Norm Macdonald is bang on. Look at his profile. Is that a needle injection or?
Oh yeah, I don't know. Is that it looks like a pen. It looks like a pen, but he's got the flags.
He's got transgender. Yeah,
I'm like they're like he actually says the murderer was misgendered. Like the humanity.
Norm Macdonald was he had his pulse on the or he had his finger on the pulse of humanity. That guy did.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace, Norm. You're in a better place. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. So
let's talk about Chris Skye.
Now we know the consequences when you when you misgender somebody.
Yikes.
Like,
I don't know, man. No. The whole thing is just crazy. And one of the other things is there was a congressman who usually lives in Dallas, was on vacation close to the shooting, and they went and they jumped on live TV to advocate for gun bans, like assault weapon bans. So like Sandy Hook and like what's his face, Alex Jones got done for, being gauche about Sandy Hook, reporting things about Sandy Hook or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
There were other people, I think, who were at Sandy Hook who were at this one, and people are calling BS on it. So not to say there's questions, but every time there's a crisis, every time there's a gun-related crisis in the United States, somebody on the left is calling for gun bans, and it's almost like clockwork. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it would be hard not to see conspiracies in it.
I did want to comment on this too, because I think it's kind of an interesting point when it comes to Canada, and maybe more so the Vancouver stabbing. But I said followers of Diagolon are not as surprised by this horrific stabbing in Vancouver. Jeremy McKenzie, Derek Rance, and the Ferryman talk about societal decay all the time on their streams. But journalists in the Conservative Party will still call Diagolon bad guys for ringing the alarm bells. And it's like, like everyone's acting so shocked. Oh my God. Like, wow. Like, what's happening to our society? And it's like, yeah, the people who are talking about this the most get called all sorts of names. They get canceled for pointing out, hey guys, our society's falling apart. And it's like, shut up, racist. And it's like, bruh.
They come back and say, oh, it's white fragility. In Guelph, we had a guy who was stabbed. We had a security guard at the Via Rail station. I think it was 2020. I think it was just before COVID. Maybe it was 2019. And people have been talking about how unsafe downtown feels after safe injection sites were open, etc. In Guelph. Okay. And then this guy was killed, and it was a murder. Mm-hmm. And I was shocked. I've lived in Guelph almost my whole life, right? I went away for school or whatever, but I've lived here for a long time. And so seeing somebody killed like that in just Guelph, and that was a little while ago. And things are, I don't know, getting better, right? But it seems like the longer this goes on, we ignore more and the problems get worse, but buried, papered over. People don't talk about it.
I think it's a lot of, from my experience of being in Toronto, there's been things like this stabbing that have happened. It just hasn't been caught on camera, like shootings in broad daylight, young people getting shot to death in the middle
people
of
live in Chicago
LCBO parking lot. And my point is that, what is the aftermath? What happens afterward? The same thing always happens. John Tory goes on TV. He says, "Oh, this is really horrible. This is really awful. We got to do something about this." And then nothing, literally nothing changes. Nothing.
Well, this time nothing John Tory
changes. Pardon? Well,
this time no John Tory.
Sure. Now John Tory's not here to say, "Hey guys, we got to smarten up," and it's become a joke. And the thing is I this is why I'm excited about Chris Skye running, because I feel like there's so many people in Toronto who are kind of just sleepwalking. And I think we need somebody to kind of rattle the cage and be like, guys, it's time to wake up. Things could be better. Okay. We don't have to be in this slowly decaying city, right? It doesn't need to be this way. You don't need to fear for your life when you're going on the TTC. There's ways to fix this,
Right.
It doesn't
so
have to
one
be
of the
like
things,
this.
What happens next? Unfortunately, as violence increases, people flee the city, and we're seeing that. People flee the province, and we're seeing that too. But there's people who stay kind of just get normalized to it, right? And people live in Chicago. There's people and there's 70 or 80 shootings there a weekend, right? And I'm sure they're contained. It's not all over Chicago, presumably. I don't know. I don't live there. But people live there, and so it could potentially get worse. You know what I mean? There's certainly no guarantee that, this is bottom or anything to that effect. And with Chris Skye, if I remember Faith Goldie saying that I'll take the illegal migrants, because the illegal migrants back when she was running in 2019 were overwhelming the shelters. She said, I'll take them out of the shelters and I'll house them at Doug Ford's house in Toronto or wherever it was, she said. And if I win the mayor race. And I love that idea. I thought it was great. And lots of people really liked it. So I find it interesting how little power really a mayor has to deal with something like that, because that's like a federal, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if the feds don't if the feds don't enforce the border and just allow all these people to come in and say, well, they're here now, you have to deal with it, Mayor Chris. I don't know how Skye's going to deal with that in a way that is, and I'd love to see him deal with it. It's great.
We're getting ahead of ourselves here.
Fair enough.
We need to make sure he wins. Okay, like we need to make sure he wins. We need to make as much noise as possible to make sure Chris wins, because in many respects, you're right. Once he gets in, once he wins, then the real battle begins. Then the real battle against the bureaucrats coming from every angle, who want to keep the
weaponized
train
left
going. Yeah, you know, all that, absolutely, and you know, we've seen this with Trump. We've seen this with every anti-establishment person who gets into a position of power. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of fighting that begins once you get in there. And the thing is like, I really don't know the answer to that question. How much power does a Toronto mayor have in terms of trying to change the influx of people, you know, changing our sanctuary city status? But I especially because people have been lulled to sleep by boring milquetoast John Tory for so long, I bet it's a lot more than we think. Because John Tory has like basically projected and given people the idea that you can't do nothing as a mayor. You just sit there, watch people get shot to death, watch kids get shot to death in the middle of the day, and you say, "Oh man, guys, we really got to smarten up about this." I'm so glad he's gone, but I'm excited to get a real human being in there, and not some other like it's funny. I don't know if I can bring it up, but I probably won't be able to find it in time. But some other guy, I was looking at the other candidates running, and the guy is like tweeting about garbage cans. He's tweeting about like bike lanes. And it's like, I wonder if he's even commenting on the fact that this, you know, this repeat offender stabbed somebody to death on the TTC. Like, are you going to talk about that? No, you can still talk about garbage cans.
It doesn't enter the matrix. It doesn't enter their matrix. Yeah, they're not interested in that because it's not part of the vision that they're trying to project.
Well, right? and that's what was so interesting about the Faith Goldie campaign, is she was actually talking about the record shootings and the crime, and it's like, yeah, this is a pretty good
and she was offering good ideas.
And every single other candidate was like, crime doesn't exist. What you talking about? Everything's fine when it comes to crime. And it's like, this is really, this is really creepy. This is Twilight Zone.
The thing with John Tory that I never understood, and like right away when I started doing cdnPoli, one of the things that dropped my jaw to the floor was realizing and understanding that Mayor John Tory owns Rogers. Like, he's on the Rogers Control Trust board, which is
really,
yeah, he owns Rogers. He's like the definition of a robber baron, and
that's crazy.
And so
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man. I did a 2-episode series on it.
You're sure it's Rogers, 2019. It's Rogers?
Rogers, 100% Rogers, because he got into trouble. Everybody was talking about the conflict of interest when he became the mayor. He was supposed to step down from the Rogers Control Trust, and he said, "I'm definitely going to do it," and then he didn't do it. And then, like,
that's funny.
He sent a letter as the mayor of Toronto to the government on behalf of the city of Toronto about Bell, but he didn't talk about Rogers. But what happens for Bell happens for Rogers, right? So he's using his position to advocate for things. So what blew my mind was that people would tolerate this, because, like, if you've got a person in power who is part of the established power structure and not necessarily there for the constituents, but is there to propagate the established power structure, then you've got somebody who's not really listening to the constituents, but somebody who's listening to the big globalist conglomerates that are pulling the strings.
Sure.
And so usually people rise up a bit against that, but in our system, we can't, and they're not held accountable to the citizens. John Tory had people standing outside of his condo for the last, weeks, or there was a whole bunch of people who were protesting John Tory because of the things that he's done. And usually you can hold them accountable at the ballot box, but in Canada, we're not allowed to do that. You can't have a petition against Dr. Neely, right? That gets taken down by change.org. You can't remove John Tory through protest, right? Or you can't remove Justin Trudeau through protest with trucks. You can't protest Drag Queen Story Hour because you'll get arrested, right? You see how it is? You can't do anything. Can't vote, can't petition, can't protest. How do you live? Well, you just do what you're told. Do you have any options? No. If you don't do what you're told, you get arrested. Right?
Well, yes and no. Like if you protest about the wrong thing, then
right.
Yeah.
You can protest Black Lives Matter because that's approved, even if there's a lockdown, even if there's a pandemic.
But I think that, something that we butt heads on this a lot. And I think the main point to make is the strategy of keeping your head down and trying to avoid like the state getting mad at you. Like that's not a strategy. That's just you running away into a hole, there is no sort of like course of action where it's like, well, maybe if I avoid getting criticized by the state or avoid the consequences of standing up to them, it's like, no, that's going to happen. It's going to be messy, especially now when we're in this euchred situation of having our, so many establishments and institutions just completely infected with
rotted out.
Rotten.
I think that France is kind of showing what's coming. I hope I'm wrong. Like I don't want the country to grind to a halt and degenerate into riots or not riots, but big protests to unseat the prime minister. That's not what I'm hoping for or anything like that. But if the government and the powers that be don't start listening to the people, I think more places are going to be like France than they are like Canada's Freedom Convoy. I hope we're not included. Like I hope Canada's not included, but we're doing the same things France is doing. It's just a matter of inciting that. It's just a matter of hitting that incitement point, that inflection where people say, enough is enough. And we're going to tell these effers, enough is enough. And people will. They will.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going to take, at one point or another, it's going to take leadership. Because even something like the convoy, it took people to spark it and to kind of get it going and be like, hey, guys, this is what we're doing. Hey, this is what I feel like. And I feel like we need to hold these people accountable.
Yeah. I think doing it again. If they were going to do it again.
I'm not saying necessarily another convoy, but like in the context of Toronto, like you need somebody to stand up and be like, hey, I'm tired of the violence. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this. No one's doing about this. And, this is what we're going to do about it. Because without some kind of leader, without some sort of movement, you're right. It just becomes this sort of like disconnected mess, and that's exactly why the state always tries to go after the leaders. They always try to go after the people who are, rallying people to actually do something about it. And I think in many ways that's why Chris Skye gets picked on so much because
they're trying to disrupt him. He is a leader.
Yeah, because he is a leader and he does do that. We'll let him play us out here. I want to hear what his message was.
Okay, I gotta go.
Oh, you gotta go?
Yeah, I gotta go.
We're not chatting after?
Well, I have to go get my kids. Sorry, man.
All right. Talk to you later, Mark.
We could chat though. Well, I'll call you.
Okay.
Is that cool?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
But I had a couple of other points to make, but I'm totally derailed. It's all right. But it's cool. I gotta go.
All right.
So.
Yep. Thanks for coming, Mark. All of his stuff is, where can we find Mark?
cdnPoli.com. I do a daily show and it's super fun. And thanks for watching, everybody. And we'll see you on April 15th. And thanks for having me, Greg. It is always fun. And we'll see you next time, man.
Talk to you later. All right. We'll play this clip from Chris Skye, and then we'll Justin Trudeau will play us out after.
Hello, everybody. Today is March 28th, 2023. And after an almost 2-year struggle, having my name dragged through the mud, called an attempted murderer of police, attempted murderer of politicians, I finally had my day in court, and I was found not guilty on all charges. Not only proving that I'm not a criminal, not only proving that this is all a government-targeted thing at me personally, but proving once again that everything I tell you that's going to happen, happens. Chris Skye, not guilty, all charges, baby.
You love to see it. Oh, look at me. I'm alone here. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I'll plug this one more time. Of course, Speaking Moistly Live, we still have tickets available. Dr. Patrick Phillips is going to be there. Sarah C., co-founder of Frontline Nurses, is going to be there. Scarlett Martin, the paramedic, is going to be there. And we're going to be talking about the healthcare industry in Canada over the past 3 years, not just all the COVID madness, but also the transgender madness, because that is starting to infect every aspect of healthcare as well. Tickets are on the link below. There are tickets still available. And yeah, thanks again for watching, guys. We'll have the Prime Minister play us out as always.
We know to prevent you from speaking moistly. Speaking moistly. Keep 2 meters apart. Speaking moistly. Speaking moistly.